right, welcome to the Southland Sermon, the show that gets fined every week by an Indian rapper who used the same free sample I did. But I'm your boy, the Rev, joined by two special guests. First of all, we got my associate pastor, Jamie Williams. But we also have the living legend, Kevin Marshall from FCS Nation Radio. Kevin, thank you for coming on the show. How are you doing tonight?
This is my ode to Matthew Frazee. I'm opening my Zen can to start the show. So there's that. Since this is a Fans Nation show, we have one of the owners here, Jamie Williams. I figured that would be, appropriate.
It's always appropriate.
But, man, I'll tell you what. This year has been, and Jamie, I know you feel the same way. It's hard to admit that you don't know much about much, but the preseason was just throwing stuff at a dartboard. We kind of knew who was going to be good because of who's been good in the past. But with the portal, it's just so difficult this season, and it's going to be that way going forward, I think. You don't really know that PC is loaded, for God's sake, right? I mean, who would have thought that? And you don't know that Mercer isn't going to play the quarterback they should play out of the gate. I mean, how do you know? Yeah. And so it's just been a really kind of a trifling year that I'm really just trying to wrap my head around. But it's been a good year because it's FCS football. But, man, it's different.
That's definitely different. It's been fun. But, yeah, you just don't know what's going to happen week after week. I mean, I got a lot wrong. I got some things right. I'm going to stand behind my Tennessee Tech call because that's damn near the only one I got right. And although with Taryn Dickens actually playing, I'm looking pretty good on my Western Carolina call too.
I just want to point out that I said earlier this year, Jamie knows this one, I said Sacramento State wasn't going to be a playoff team, and it looks like that I am right on track for that to happen. So
well, should we talk about incornate words since this is
no. I was gonna have a banner that said Kevin craps on a incarnate word brought to you by somebody, but I didn't get a chance to make it. But before we get to that, let's get to incarnate word a second because they didn't play last week. Let's talk about last week's games real quick before we get into. I'm gonna give you your time to have your vengeance and vendetta against the Cardinals. Also, too. So y'all know we may have one special guest reading showing up later. It just depends on when they get done with their thing they're doing. But let's go through the games. First of all, Lamar wearing their shirt, not because I like them, but because they made it on bad beats last week. What a weird game. But they beat East Texas A&M in Commerce 33-23, ruining everybody's bets and parlays. And then Northwestern State loses to Houston Christian, not a shock, 20-17 on CVS Field. Did y'all see the ending to the Lamar East Texas A&M game, or did you at least see the footage on Bad Beats of what happened? Because that was the nuttiest ending I've ever seen.
I just don't quite know what to say about that. I mean, at one point I'm just thinking when I'm looking at that score, I'm going, my God, South Dakota must be bad. It must be all bad.
They are, Kevin.
I'm starting maybe to round into that thinking.
I think you and I both love Aiden, but that team is
yes. But good. I mean, it used to be anytime that anybody mentioned Lamar, I thought about a dude in a singlet with a javelin, right? and then it got away from that because they started winning football games, and I really like the head coach, but man, they found a way to win, and at some point, that's going to catch up to you. But it wasn't last week, maybe this week, maybe the week after. But they won a football game, and that is not an easy thing to do, as we all know.
Yeah. So the crazy way this all happened in the fourth quarter, Lamar was down 20-23 with 9 minutes left. They scored a touchdown with 3 seconds left. It's 27-23. They kick off to Commerce or East Texas A&M. Sorry. And so, because there's 3 seconds left, what do you think they try to do? They try to, to lateral it across the field, except he lateraled it right at a Lamar player who ran it. It was Ronnie Hamrick who basically got it and ran it in for a touchdown as time expired. So Lamar won by 10 and ruined the line on the game was 7.5.
Oops, Lord have mercy.
So, yeah, but to the point about Pete Rosamondo, last year I said probably prematurely, and Zach McKinnell actually agreed with me, that we thought that Lamar would potentially be a dark horse last year. We were a little early. We both said this year they could be a dark horse in the conference, and they're doing what they need to do to win, especially not having, their starting quarterback. They're running with McCown now, and he's shown that he can do it. He's not the best, he's not the worst, but he's doing what he needs to do to get wins. They have been playing, they've been focusing on special teams and defense to get wins. But at some point, they're going to run into both Stephen F. Austin and Southeastern Louisiana. And I don't know if they're going to be able to keep what they're doing going against those two teams.
Well, I'd be remiss if I didn't point out that those two teams are not going to run into each other, as the CAA-ification of the Southland is happening. Hold
on, I have a checklist.
Somehow, the two best teams are not going to play each other. Boy, howdy, that's purely random happenstance, I'm sure. So good on the Southland. If you're if other people are playing that game, you may as well try to do it too. I totally understand it. I don't have to like it, but I respect the game, man.
You're not going to be able to read this, but my phone has a list that says Kevin shits on UIW and Kevin gripes about scheduling. There's my notes.
Check and check.
Yeah, check and check. We've crossed off the work. No,
I mean, the scheduling is a thing. I mean, those two teams not playing each other is an absolute travesty. And, I'd hate for it to come down to a coin flip at the end because they didn't play each other. I mean, at least do what the CA does. And, look at Rhode Island's schedule. They just said, okay, who are the worst 6 teams? That's who they play in conference. So you got to really work at that.
Yeah. Yeah, but you're a hater if you point it out, right? And it's hilarious to me that when it happened, I thought, man, all right, that Holy Cross team, that defense is hellacious, man. And then Harvard scores 86,000 points on them, or somebody did the next week, and I'm like, it's possible that both these teams just stink out loud. and I'm not sure if that's the case. I mean, look. That was a hell of an effort last week by the defense from Rhode Island. I mean, New Hampshire's driving the ball down the field to win that game. And a scoop and score wins that one for the Rams. So, that is a team that is probably going to be a playoff team. And look, we all say it, even if it's not always true. You just want to get in the tournament and anything can happen. Yeah, maybe, but it hasn't happened in a long time. I think the last time that happened was with the Patriot League team, right? Where people went, oh, wow, anything can happen in the FCS playoffs. We kind of know what's going to happen, right? Because it happens every year. But I'm interested to see how the CAA plays out because, Jamie, that's your country and your school was once in that league. The game plan for Monmouth is we get 3 defensive stops, we're going to win because nobody can stop our offense.
That's pretty.
So that's got to be a hell of a feeling.
That's been Monmouth since their Big South days. Being right. That southern team out in northern New Jersey.
I will say pretty soon, saying that's Jamie's conference and team is going to be like St. Sewanee is still part of the SEC, and the fans should know that too. He's going to slowly fade away from that. There's not much to touch on Houston Christian and Northwestern State, honestly, with that game.
The Northwestern State head coach is jacked. Let's just point that out. Dude. All right, let's just point that out. Like I would be afraid to not make plays for that guy.
Yeah, and I'll say I met him at the Southland Media Day last year. Nice guy, right? Very nice guy. Actually took time to talk to me afterwards, complimented me on my shoes because I was wearing SFA loafers. So the thing he really liked them. He's like, we need some Northwestern State versions of those. But he's a good guy. He's hard. They're my team's. This is the bias. They're my team's rival. But you like the guy so much, you want to see him succeed. You want to see him do well there, because he's just a genuine good dude. So, so real quick. This is a nice segue. I'm drinking this lovely. I don't know if you can see it, but this lovely lemon and Kolsch my buddies from Jackrabbit Illustrated sent me. Actually, Chad Myra specifically, but. Speaking of lemons, Kevin, while we're early in the show, I want to give you an opportunity to talk about what you're doing with Northwestern Mutual and Alex's Lemonade Stand, because it's such a great thing. I'll let you talk to it, and then I'll touch again on what I'm doing for my bet, but I want to give you the floor and talk about what's going on.
Well, we're just really pleased to be part of this again. And I hate cancer, and I think everyone does. It's something that can unite everybody in FCS world and probably the entire planet. But it's probably, and I'm not saying this, footballscoop.com said this, that it was the best use of nil in America. And it's taking FCS football players at some of our FCS schools, and they're getting some nil money to use their name, image, and likeness to raise money for Alex's Lemonade Stand, whose goal is to end pediatric cancer in our time. And so they're using what they have and what they've gained on the football field for something that's greater than their own self-interest. And at our level of football, you're probably always going to have to do something to get some nil money. You're not just going to get a bag of money because you can play safety like you're at Clemson or Carolina or someplace like that. So to use this for something that is just a positive good is what we're very pleased and proud to be a part of. Again, Northwestern Mutual is an outstanding partner for us in that. And Chris Schenkel from Sioux Falls really drives this ship. His leadership has been outstanding, and it's our job to help promote it. And we've had such good participation from people like the Rev, people like Jamie, people like Jack Rabbit Illustrated, and the guys at the University of South Dakota that, we've been able to raise about $140,000 in 2 years. And that's some real money. That's some real hours going to pediatric cancer research. And if anybody out there has the ability to donate, if your team isn't taking part, pick one that you dislike the least. And I would encourage that should be, unless you hate the troops, that would be the Military College of South Carolina and Bradley Jones. So, those should be the ones that you hate the least. And if you'll get a hold of me, I'll give you a whole bunch of hashtags. You don't even have to dig into your own pocket to donate. Just take a picture with a lemon balanced on your head, and I'll give you some advice. If you crush that thing up a little bit, get it nice and flat.
Flatten her out.
It'll stay up there on your head. And you don't got to take your picture looking like the Rev blessing everybody because you're trying to balance it. So, and if you put the right hashtags, you'll get a $10 donation to the player that you choose. But thanks for letting me talk about that, Rev. It's a big part of what we're doing, and we're just really pleased to be a part of it.
No, and it's awesome. Like, I probably planned on taking my Sam Vidlac money and donating it to Citadel, the player for this year. But no, so to that point, I'm doing with Sam Vidlac because he throws dimes. I'm doing a dime a yard. Right now he's at about 1,180 yards for the year, so that's $118 and I think 70 cents if you want to get down to that. I'm going to probably increase it for the playoffs because the playoffs matter more. But at the end of the day, once we get the final tally, I will definitely be donating my share. I do recommend that you do the Lemon Top Challenge, that you use the hashtags. You can go to FCS Nation Radio 1 on Twitter, and you'll see the hashtags. You'll see all the posts. It's such a good thing to do. It should unite everybody. Everybody should be against pediatric cancer. And I'm going to assume that if you don't donate to this, that you support cancer. And you don't support
Brendan's
children.
got that right, dude.
Brendan's got it right. Yeah.
Got that right. What do you mean you don't want to donate? You like kids having cancer? What the hell's the matter with you?
Yeah. So there we go. I knew Austin. I was going to bring that up, Jamie, but Austin's a good guy. And I know he'll do. He's a man of his word. So no, great. Jamie, do you have anything you want to add to it?
And before we move on, since we've got Kevin, I've been trying to figure out what I was going to do. So Kevin, here's what I'm going to do this year. For every offensive player that is representing FCS Nation Radio in this Northwestern Mutual, $1 a touchdown. Every defensive player, $1 per tackle for loss. I'm not going to go to stacks.
That's very generous. Thank you, Jamie.
I'm going to do another $1 for every touchdown scored by my James Madison Dukes.
Okay. Well, they've been offensively challenged. So, just a little bit. So, can we do that retroactively to that game against North Carolina, maybe?
There we go.
Can we go back to that?
That's right. Hey, I'm going to be there to support it. So hell, I'll throw that in. We'll count that up and add that to the total just because
very generous. Thank you, Jamie.
Appreciate that a lot. I mean, we've appreciated you including us, you and Stone including us as FCS Fans Nation in this. Like Rev said, we all obviously support your cause. We support you guys, and more than happy to do it and continue to support you and like and retweet and anything we can do to continue to support that cause for you and your group.
Yep. I was going to ask too, are you going to do another auction like you did last year?
Yes.
Because here's the thing, I keep seeing Zach's damn David Walker helmet, and it's so sick. And this is also why we got to get SFA involved but I wanted to bet on the South Dakota State jersey last year, and those guys went nuts. I was like, I can't keep up with you, and the way you're going for that.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, and it's not just the big schools. Like, I mean, we do have the Citadel, we got Furman, we got Richmond. I know that I know, right? I'm cussing, right, Jamie? But there's going to be there'll be opportunities to pick up gear at the auction, to make your man cave, even if you're not a fan of that team. I mean, and God knows I'm not, but like a man cave with that Diamond F jersey, I mean, from Furman, that's sharp, man, So, I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that's going to be available, and it opens quickly and closes quickly. So, it's not like something you're going to have to wait, 3 weeks to figure out whether you're going to win it or not. And we promise, unlike some people who are just down the road from me, that the auction site won't crash. Promise that.
Yeah. Unrelated, I thought about wearing my Furman shirt just to troll you, the one that says "F you" all the time, but I decided not to.
My mother hates that. She just.
I'm sure she does.
She just thinks it's the lewdest thing in the world. And when I showed her that her alma mater was bottling and selling spirituous liquor, she was just aghast. That they didn't even like them dancing when she was at Furman. So it's been a minute.
Well, before we go to the games next week, Jamie, you are a voter in a couple of polls. I'm a voter in one poll. Kevin runs his own poll for FCS Nation Radio. There have been 3 teams that have been receiving votes in the Southland. I'm not counting UTRGV receiving votes because they shouldn't be, but sorry.
Hell of a story. Hell
of a story. No disrespect to Vaqueros, but if anybody's voting you into the top 25, they're just checking box scores. I don't know what's going on. But SFA, Lamar, and Southeastern Louisiana are all getting votes in some way, shape, or form, and are getting ranked. I want to hear your thoughts on those 3 teams. Where, and Kevin, with you specifically, which ones you have in your poll, where, and why?
Well, I've had SFA for a couple weeks, and it's mostly about the quarterback. Sam Vidlac. I mean, I watched him up close and personal down here in Missoula, where it didn't look like that young man could play dead. And then he goes out to your team, Rev, and he's had just a rebirth, and you like to see that. I don't know what it was about Missoula and about playing for the Grizzlies, but that young man goes to Texas and reinvents himself. It's been an amazing, amazing deal for him. And I put Southeastern Louisiana in there this week, mostly because, Jamie, maybe you'll agree or disagree, but I wasn't quite ready to put Western Carolina in yet because people would have accused me of homerism. And believe it or not, I tried. Maybe it's subconscious, but I guess I am a little bit harder on SoCon teams than some people are when it comes to where I rank them, just because, it pleases me when people accuse me of being a big Sky homer like they did last week, or accuse me this week and asking me how much money the Missouri Valley Football Conference pays me. I really appreciate that. But nobody has said that I'm a SoCon homer yet this year, mostly because it's been so bad, right? that they haven't had an opportunity. But Southeastern Louisiana, they moved up into the poll this week because they're undefeated against the FCS. Now, the FCS teams they played have not been very good ones, y'all. But that's going to maybe, take care of itself here down the road. But they should get another win this week against Northwestern State, who has won 1 game in 2 seasons. So that record's going to look even gaudier as they move forward. Lamar, I've been higher on than most people have for a while. Maybe it's a little holdover from when they beat South Dakota, when everybody thought South Dakota was a good team. And they haven't done anything since then, like lose, like Abilene Christian did to Incarnate Word, to warrant moving them down significantly. So, they've kind of stayed pretty steady. But I like all three of those teams. I think that the C one's probably higher for SFA because of the quarterback play. If they can protect Vidlac, they can go a long way in the playoffs because they've always had dudes on the defensive line. That is, just like for years. And you've kind of wondered, or at least I have, why haven't they done more with what they've had, especially on the defensive side of the ball? They've had dudes on that defensive line, and they just haven't produced the results that their talent should have them produce, I don't think, especially on the defensive side of the ball.
No, I 100% agree. I think that's a fair assessment of SFA, especially with the fact that we had, Trey Self and Xavier Gibson, and then you turn around, now we have Sam Vidlac and Kylon Harris. Now, granted, SFA probably last year would have been a playoff team had Vidlac not gotten injured by the Swamp People when we went down to Thibodeau, because they're on that trajectory. The defense still played tough. But also, too, sometimes, I have the utmost respect for Coach Carthel, but sometimes he and his coaching staff get in their own way. They make some really bad plays, some really bad adjustments that have hampered, I think, SFA's ability to go further than they have. Jamie, what are your thoughts on those teams?
Yeah, I actually do have Lamar at 13 this week. Like Kevin said, they've just been that steady, consistent team, and I know they had to play a little come from behind this past week, but sometimes that's a marker of a good team when you don't have it and you still scratch out a win. People are going to ding them because they barely beat a team, and we ding teams for that here and there. But they've showed a lot of resolve. We're unanimous in this little triangle here that we like Pete Rossamondo. So I am right now the highest on Lamar. I'd have SFA and SLU actually back to back at 20 and 21 with SFA at 20. Again, like I've said, Vidlac is probably heads and shoulders the best quarterback in the conference, but I don't want to get out of this segment without giving a little bit of a shout out to Carson Camp. We've heard that name at a couple of other stops in the past, and he's played pretty well this year for Southeast Louisiana. They got a receiver, that Jalen Domingo. The ball's going to him when it gets tight. He's already got 5 touchdowns. So, he's pretty solid. They got a running game that, spreads it out. They don't have one guy that's going to kill you. And their defense, plays a little bit better than it surely. If the big boy had it a few years ago, maybe they wouldn't have been run out of the playoffs as quickly as they were. I just completely forgot who 15's name was that was so good for them. But, I like all three teams. I think all three have a shot at the playoffs. I do think maybe only 2 get in. It's just like we talked about, seriously and facetiously, it's sad that SFA and SLU don't play each other, but they're all clearly, to me, top 25 teams. And Kevin, I did actually put Western Carolina in this year because with Taron Dickens, they are 4-0. And I think that matters when your best player is gone. Mm-hmm. And I'll say the same thing when people want to argue with me about Tarleton. They've had their backup quarterback for 3 weeks, and they're still just railing people and putting up 50 and 40. So just to get off on that UAC tangent for 5 seconds.
Yeah, there's
let me say this. I try not to be hypocritical, right? And how can I ding the Southland for being what the conference I love the most is, which is once you get to conference play and these coaches have coached against each other for a long time, they know each other extremely well. They play close ball games. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that I admire and love about the Southern Conference is that, it's going to happen this year. We're all just waiting for it to happen, where somebody beats somebody and you go, how did that happen? Well, so with Lamar, nobody dinged Incarnate Word last year when they were struggling to put away teams the last 4, 5, 6 games of the season in the Southland Conference. They didn't look impressive doing it. They just continued to win. So, if we're going to be consistent, let's be consistent. And I'm not going to ding a team like that for playing conference games on the road that are close. That's
no, I agree. I mean, I have all three of them ranked in my poll. I have SFA higher than Lamar though, because I think at the moment SFA is the better team. I do think SFA is. You can ask you can ask Jamie about this. I'm probably the hardest on SFA when it comes to poll voters because
he was pretty rough on him early in the year. He's starting to. There might be a beer in his hand. But there's a cup of Kool-Aid to Alf screen.
Right.
I just
cooler is what it is. That's the flavor.
There it is. Yeah. No, I think that when SFA and Lamar play here in a few weeks, I think SFA is going to have the upper hand. But to your point, they know each other real well. They know how to play against each other, and you see these games and also too, Lamar is playing again without their starting quarterback. So it's really hard to ding a team and punish a team saying they're playing bad ball whenever they don't have one of their best players on the field. So I just
got to give him the credit for how he's played, though.
Oh my God, yeah,
that offense quite well. They really haven't missed a beat. So I got a lot of respect for the way he's played.
Oh yeah, I know you're not bashing him. And I'm pretty sure that his only two major FCS offers were Lamar and the Citadel. I know the Citadel wanted him. He took an official visit there. So, I mean, it wasn't like this was a young man who was highly, highly, highly recruited, right? And I think the only reason why the Citadel got a look was because his daddy knew Coach Drayton from the NFL together.
Yeah, I was he comes from such a family with both, Josh McCown and Luke McCown in his bloodline. Like you would have thought he would have gotten at least more looks from maybe some of the lower tier CUSA teams like Tech, like Sam, like those like that. And the fact that they only had Citadel and Lamar is honestly, it still shocks me because he's a good quarterback. I think he's done well. He's
done everything they've asked him to do, Rev.
Exactly, and that's
a whole bunch of things they've told him not to do. Right? so that's always a plus.
That is true, and I do hate that it's going to come down to transitive property a little bit when folks look at these three teams. Because I do hate that SFA and Southeastern Louisiana don't play, and then let's say that they get to the point to where the two finish out undefeated in conference because they could. One, I think Chris Grant would actually publicly do the coin flip, unlike some other conferences.
That would be the OVC, if everybody was wondering. We'll call them out because I did when it happened.
Right. And then two, my other bet is whomever doesn't win the auto qualifier will travel to the other team first round. Because
that would be something, right?
Yeah.
I might have to try to figure out a way to get to that.
Yeah. So awesome. Well, let's go into next week's game. And Kevin, I'm not going to go in order because I know you're itching on this one. So let's go to the folks who choked away the game against Lamar last week. East Texas A&M traveling to Benson Stadium in San Antonio to play the University of the Incarnate Word. Kevin, I know you've got some thoughts on the Incarnate Word. It's your time to shine.
Well, you know what? First of all, just like Rhode Island, I'm not a hater, right? It may just seem that way. For me, it's when we elevate comes elevated expectations, right? And so for Incarnate Word for years, it was like people expected Lindsey Scott to come running back out of that locker room for them. The same way that Southern Illinois Salukis fans long for Stone Labanowitz to come running out of that locker room again, right? Well, he don't play there no more. So I'm not a hater. I just think they got a lot of credit for a long time for a game in Fargo that they ended up losing. And that got them a lot of cred with a lot of people nationally for about 3 seasons almost. And everyone is so quick to want to try to figure out who's going to be able to compete with the Dakotas and the Montanas. And sometimes the answer to that question is there's just not anybody. Instead of trying to figure out who that's going to be. And I know some people's business model is different than mine, right? I mean, some people need people to click on their website. I totally understand that. We do a radio show that happens to have a website. So I totally understand that. And articles are where, their bread is buttered, and that's fine. That's perfectly awesome business model. But it's just okay to say I don't know. And there's not anybody. Like, part of me believes that Tarleton could be Sac State from a couple of years ago. Part of me believes that Tarleton could be Incarnate Word from last year. We've seen this before where teams are flashy, especially offensively, and put up gaudy numbers. But then they go to these places in the playoffs and that offense just disappears. And I hope not, for Tarleton's sake. I like those people. Their program is just tremendous, considering that, they were D2 just a couple of years ago, 3-4 years ago. So I'm very interested to see how that's all going to play out. But they shouldn't have very many problems, you wouldn't think. The quarterback change has been a good one for the Cardinals. That's no doubt. And I just wonder, we're not at the practices. That's one thing Stone likes to say to me all the time when I ask him, so why is this guy playing and not this guy? Well, you're not there at the practices, Kev. You don't see what those guys see. But there's been several places around this country this year in FCS football where you're like, how did this guy start over this guy since this guy's doing so well? And I really don't know what the answer to that question is, other than, what did people see in the spring and in fall camp that we all didn't. But I expect Incarnate Word should handle East Texas A&M. Commerce. The commerce should be bad for East Texas A&M in San Antonio on Saturday.
Yeah, I'll say this, and Jamie, I'll let you chime in. I got to watch Incarnate Word earlier this year. I watched them play Eastern Washington, and they didn't. It was a tale of two halves for them too. And watching like Torres in person, he's not the same quarterback that EJ Colson is.
No.
And that's where I legit sat there and said, how did he get the nod over this guy? Because watching him in person, I mean, Eastern Washington gave them 8 yards of cushion per play, like their secondary did, and yet he still wasn't taking full advantage of it. And I know Kyler likes to say how bad his team is, but Eastern Washington, theoretically, had they put their offense together, they could have potentially won that game, especially the way Incarnate Word played in the second half. And so I'm going to go off on a limb. I think East Texas A&M shockingly gets the upset here. I think they're going to pull some momentum from how they played against Lamar. I think Coach Lozelle is pretty smart. I think he's going to look at this and say, okay, we did some good stuff against a ranked team. What can we take from this against a team who's honestly not as good as Lamar is? That's what I'm also, let's be honest, for another reason. The crowd's not going to be a factor in San Antonio because that is a church crowd. They are quiet. Somebody should offer them, the ability to do communion or something because they're just absolutely quiet.
Why is that, Rev? They're in the middle of a giant metropolitan area, and there's only one other team in that metropolitan area, and they stink, right?
Well, so in the San Antonio Metro, you actually got two because Texas State does qualify for that, even though they're about 45 minutes away. But the thing too is like that stadium makes SFA Stadium looks like a palace, and SFA Stadium needs to be rebuilt. It's just, they're the largest Catholic university in the United States, and they might be the largest Catholic university in the world. Truly, truly Catholic. And I know, like Notre Dame, like, do you don't understand how many folks that Incarnate Word has that go there?
So they're kind of like Kennesaw State.
That might be a good way to put that because
that way. A lot of students, a lot of them not having any other ties to the school other than they go there.
Yeah, and like here's the thing, Richard Duran, who's the AD and Incarnate Word, great guy, very nice guy. He's trying to build stuff in there. We know folks who are doing the run of show and things like that. They're trying hard to get the fans involved. It's just I think their problem isn't a football program problem. I don't think it's necessarily the size of the stadium versus the size of their folks on campus problem. I think it's just a marketing problem because Trinity University, who's D3, who's just across the road from them, can pull crowds in. So I think that's just what it is. They need to market this. They need to tie more into the troops. Like, their end zones look awesome. They're camouflage. Wonderful. Bring the troops in. There's so many military bases in San Antonio. Get them involved. Get them to become fans of yours. Because UTSA isn't doing that. UTSA is not necessarily marketing to the local folks. Like, I think there's opportunities there that they just aren't doing. But it shocked me, how their home side was full. Kyler and I sat there and went, wow, their home side is full. Their student side was full. But yet you can hear conversations on the sideline when you're sitting in the stands. And that's insane to me because I've never heard that in my life at a football game.
Yeah, for me, the problem with the Incarnate Word is the offensive line is not good. And that's where the change to Colson has been what they should have done. And I called for Colson halfway through the first game against Nichols because Torres just didn't have it. And they've turned the ball over quite a bit, but only one interception from Colson, I believe. But they've fumbled the ball a total of 6 times. Torres threw all those interceptions. They've got a running back, Jalen Spears, who is a talented running back.
Yes,
as
sir.
a team, they have 3 yards of carry. The offensive line, to me, is the problem for Incarnate Word. And so you can't get your offense in a rhythm. They've got good receivers, but they can't get them the ball because they don't have time to get the ball to them. I mean, Cheaton James, we know how good he was for Idaho State. He should be good here. Walthall's done nothing. I just feel like that offensive line has been a real drag on that Incarnate Word offense, and that is what is costing them a good season because the defense is better than I thought it was going to be. And Colson has played pretty good. I mean, 70-some% completion and all that. It's just sad to see how bad that offensive line is, which is costing that team a lot of games. And
one of the better defensive players in the country last year, his name escapes me at the moment, but he played at UT Martin, transferred into Incarnate Word.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
A defensive lineman. I think he wore number 0 last year for Tennessee Martin.
Yeah, I know you're talking about.
He was the lone bright spot. I watched that playoff game between them from the sideline in Bozeman, and he was whipping dudes who made all Big Sky offensive line repeatedly last year. Now, Tommy Malott just ran away from where that was happening, right? Which, it's nice when you have a guy like that. But the defense has been enough to where they should be having a much better record. And I just think that they got punched in the mouth against Nichols. And really, it took them a while to get just recovered from that because it wasn't expected. No. I mean, I think the only person in America that picked Nichols in that ball game was Lebanowitz. And I think they were like plus 600 in that ball game on the money line. But he knew that QB a little bit and knew that he could get the ball down the field. And then we needed to do that a couple of times because Incarnate Word couldn't score, which that's like going to KFC and they ain't got no chicken, or going to the post office and they out of stamps, right? Yeah. Things that shouldn't happen. So, we're not going to be able to diagnose what's wrong with Incarnate Word because there's been a lot right about that team the last few years. But I think maybe they're just starting to return to what, because it's hard, man, when you cycle coaches through the way they have. That's difficult. Mm-hmm. Not everybody is NDSU where they can do that and not skip a beat.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's it. I will take Incarnate Word to win.
Yeah. So it's crazy to me. 6 games, the top rusher for Incarnate Word is Jalen Spears with 231 yards. Like, that's just nuts to me. Garcia is their top receiver, 424. Like, the offense just is not there. And, in Colson, I mean, he's thrown 7 touchdowns, only thrown 1 pick. He hasn't necessarily had bad stats, but he just doesn't have great stats. There's nothing great about that team.
Not breaking the scoreboard like
no, he's not. Does, no, exactly. All right, let's go to this one. The faithful, the 956, the UTRGV Vaqueros traveled to Beaumont to play Lamar. Now, he's talked about how last week's game ended, which was nuts for just all bettors. UTRGV, now that they've faced some competition in the conference, I think we've taken down the bunting a little bit for them as it's come to their performance. Do you think they have a shot at Lamar, or do you think Lamar is another level above them? Jamie, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I respect what Coach Bush is doing there, and it's admirable for a first-year program. But I just think Lamar is going to be just too much up there, and they're going to want to show out a little bit better than they did this past week. And I think they'll be ready to play. And I think this is probably at least a 2-score win for Lamar. I just think they got a little bit too much on both sides of the ball there. Lamar, I would book that.
Yep. Kevin?
I would tend to agree with you. And look, the one thing I worry about with UTRGV is now that we've played Division I opponents and we're doing it in back-to-back weeks, if they don't wear out just a little bit. So that's my one, kind of like these when our teams go up and play FBS teams, what happens in the fourth quarter, right? So, but I wonder if we might not see that from a team standpoint. But they're plucky. They play with a lot of abandon. They never quit. There's a lot to admire about them. And I imagine that, look, there's very few things that are as powerful in the world as the nobody believes in us thing in sports, right? Mm-hmm. That is one of the greatest things in the world. And Coach Bush going to play that this week. And nobody believes we can go in there and compete, much less win. I mean, I remember this when the Citadel went and played Alabama. People thought that the Citadel wouldn't get a first down. And, then, when we put up more points against them, the Mississippi State and Ole Miss and LSU and stuff like that, those things can happen. And I expect this ball game to be close. I think it'll be a 4-quarter ball game. And Lamar will pull away and probably score a couple of touchdowns in the last 7 or 8 minutes to make it look a lot worse than it was, probably, I think.
Yeah, I'm going to pull up Austin's comment again because I actually kind of like this. UTRGV does have a great offense. Their quarterback play has been really great, really fun to watch. He thinks it'll be closer. It should be 35-32 Lamar. I'm kind of thinking it's going to be a 10-point game, however it finishes out. So, but however you want to break it down, 38-28, somewhere in there. That's probably where I think it'll land. I wish I knew what the line was on it. I hadn't looked at the lines, but that's probably where I think it'll end up. I think it'll be closer than Lamar wants it to be. And then of course it's gonna, then the debate is gonna happen again with voters. Like, what do we do? You can't punish them for not losing, but did they maybe not play as well against the team they probably should have?
Well, especially not when you can probably point to that and say that UTRGV is the best win that Southeastern Louisiana has right now.
Exactly.
Right. So, I mean, you got to balance those out a little bit. So I expect him to go there and compete, Rev. I think you're right.
No, it should be fun. It should be definitely a fun game. Let's see. Speaking of Southeastern Louisiana, Kevin, you already said this, but they got the demons, the thumpers of the Southland right now. Not thumper like Brendan, but just thumper as in, falling behind. But
they got thumper without the beard. That's what they got. They got Thumpy without his beard.
And his heights.
That's who they're playing this week. Well, I cut that guy in Frisco. Everybody saw it. I had him on the ground. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it.
Yeah, so I don't see this one being close. I at all. I'd see this being just a molly-whopping for Northwestern State against the Southeast Louisiana. Kevin, you already said you think that Southeast Louisiana is going to pull this dub. Jamie, what do you think?
Well, to quote my good friend Kevin Marshall, not much to see here, folks.
Yeah, there you go.
I love it. Well, all right. Next, it's homecoming in Lake Charles, so they'll have their erection party Friday night, and you don't need to censor me for that because that's what it's called when they set up their tailgate Friday night. It is the erection party.
It's almost as weird as Texas A&M.
Yeah, but then Saturday they host Houston Christian. Man, McNeese is kind of interesting to me. I have some thoughts on them, but Kevin, what are your thoughts?
Well, everybody who thought that Coach Viator was going to come back there and was going to be able to flip a switch, you were wrong. Matt, they got problems there in Lake Charles. And I think that that's a proud program. I kind of look at them and Eastern Kentucky in kind of the same view, right? Both proud programs with a proud history. Eastern Kentucky is further along in the rebuild than McNeese is in year one, but they're going to get it right there. You have to believe they have the people in place to do so. And I think they knew this year that this was going to be a year of taking lumps, and they're trying to develop guys. But in FCS, it's so weird now because you want to develop guys for next year, but you don't want them to do too well because somebody else is going to want them
exactly
at the next level up. So it's really you know what? That may be the answer as to why Mercer wasn't playing that quarterback, Jamie. Atkinson. Because they didn't want nobody to know that they had him because they played a freshman last year and now he's at Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, it's been a tough year for them, no doubt, in Lake Charles, Rev.
Yeah, 100%. And here's my thing, right? Taking the non-bias I try to have for this thing, I'm going to take that off real quick. When McNeese fired Goff, which they really should have, and they brought in a Viator, I was like, okay, you're going back to something that you think is going to work again. You're like the one guy. You're like the guy who goes to a Chinese restaurant, orders the same meal no matter what because you know it's good. Instead of trying something else, try something else that could work. And then when they played Louisiana Christian, they won, and then he broke the record for most wins as a McNeese coach, and they started going off, and then so seeing them struggle isn't something I enjoy, but it's not something that I don't enjoy either. There's a little bit of Schadenfreude with it, because when McNeese is good, their fans, who I dearly love McNeese fans, but they can be some of the most. They're the Montana fans of the South. Whenever McNeese is doing well, so I don't necessarily hate this. I think this being homecoming, and I think Houston Christian kind of being what they've done this year. I see McNeese probably doing okay. I mean, Strong has been okay as quarterback. He's thrown a lot of picks. That's the problem. He's made a lot of bad throws. Citizen running back hasn't been the strongest, 51 carries for 321 yards this year. So it's just their offense has just been struggling. But I don't see Houston Christian having the legs to keep up with McNeese in any way, shape, or form. It's a damn shame, though, that with Viator back, that it wasn't when McNeese had Micah Davey there, because that could have been something special with those two together. So I think McNeese rights the ship. I think they get a win for homecoming. I think everybody's going to sway and clap and sing Jolie Blonde together. So, Jamie, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you just look at what McNeese has done, and they've played 2 FBS teams and a sub D1 team. So, it's hard to really judge what they are as an FCS team, and I still don't think it's very good. But they haven't really, been able to kind of get their ball rolling yet. And I think they do get it rolling this week. And I actually feel like this could be a pretty comfortable win for them. We'll see how that rolls out.
Yeah, Rev, you brought up an interesting point. Now, explain this to me in Southland terms that I'll understand, but give it to me in terms that I'll really understand. Like, I don't like or enjoy to see VMI struggle, right? Because I have respect for them. But it don't bother me none when Furman does. So break it down to me in your fandom, with rivals. Who is the one that you're like, well, I hope they do well except for this week, and who's the one that if you could fire them into the sun in a missile, you would do it. So break it down for me.
So that's changed for us, obviously, because the one it used to be with Sam Houston. Now they're FBS, and we're not rivals anymore.
They say they're FBS.
They say
right.
FBS. Northwestern State's kind of weird because we played for the Chief. Now we play for the replacement Chief, but the hatred isn't there. And I know it sounds weird. Like we hate it, and Austin will chime in on this probably, but it's a mutual hate respect sort of thing between our two schools. But because Natchitoches and Nacogdoches are sister cities. So it's kind of a weird mutual thing. So there's a team in the conference that I'm like, man, I just don't like, or it's probably actually Nichols. There's a team I really just don't like in the conference. It's probably Nichols State. Sorry, Zach Carlton, if you're watching this, but I hate your swamp people. I hate
Texas, Louisiana thing, right?
I hate your mascot. Your mascot looks like the bad villain from a World War II movie. Like,
but
why
Colonel
is he
Nichols
great?
was a dude, man.
But he was a dude. But this mascot is a joke. This mascot looked like legit. I mean, the fact that he's great, he looks like he's the bad guy in every World War II movie. So, the other school that I don't like, being honest, is Tarleton. I don't like Tarleton State. I cannot stand them. I'm nice to them. I respect them. It's like that scene from the end of Anchorman where he's like, I hate you, Ron Burgundy, but damn do I respect you. That's kind of how I feel about Tarleton. Their fans annoyed the ever living piss out of me. They're Aggies who couldn't get in the College Station. They're almost as annoying about wanting to be FBS as Sacramento State is. So there's nothing to like there. But damn, can they play football this year? So it's very hard to do that. I was looking to see
ask Coach Fitz about how his daughter gave it to the Tarleton fans the last couple of weeks ago. I'm not surprised. It's a little Spitfire. Go ahead, Layla.
So Austin. And so Austin, he's a great guy. He's a big SFA alumni too. Like, we hate Sam Houston. We enjoy playing Northwestern State. The game is close year in year out. The rivalry better. The rivalry with Northwestern State was better in basketball. If I'm being 100% honest, we had a lot of fun there. And Austin also says Tarleton's the problem. And then he says Tarleton fans really act like Sam Houston fans did years ago, leading up to them going to FBS. And that's 100% accurate. So that's
kind of how the way that Georgia Southern and Appalachian State fans did.
Same thing, except Tarleton's not feeling as hot as Appalachian State is.
Right. And you know, both of those squads had horrible years their last 2 years in the SoCon.
Yeah,
and then they moved up and they immediately won the Sun Belt. They were like 1 and 2 in the Sun Belt.
Yeah, and
which
here's
is
the funny
better
thing.
now than it was then. That's for sure.
And here's the funny thing: we got the Southeastern guy right here, Fighting Lions. I want to hear your take as a Southeastern fan. And notice I didn't call you C-Law. We already saw the discussion on Twitter this week. But as a Southeastern fan,
that just takes a modicum of effort to call them SLU, man. That's like not using the.
Exactly. But
shit makes me mad.
Other than Nichols, because we know about the River Bell, I'm interested to know who they hate in the conference too. So drop it in the comments and I'll post it up here. But yeah, so that's not like, again, it's with McNeese, it's just their fans. That's really what drives me nuts. Here's the other thing about McNeese fans. I say they're the Montana fans of the South, but you go to Lake Charles, you know what? You go to tailgate, you walk in with visitor gear, they're going to give you a beer. They're going to feed you, right? If it's gumbo weather, they're giving you some gumbo, right? If they got anything, they're like, oh, share, right? But when you get into the stadium, they're going to insult you, your mama, and your grandmother for hours. After the game, they're going to invite you back to have a beer. So,
Rev, at SFA games, when y'all have that Texas barbecue, do y'all just cook it in the trash can? And just not even give it to anybody?
God.
Or what?
Oh, no, we eat.
Because, that would be way more convenient than putting it on a plate and putting it in the trash can. Just go ahead and cook it in there.
We eat our barbecue proudly because it's real barbecue, unlike that mustard shit you do in South Carolina.
Dude, vinegar is good now. It's not just used in the showers at VMI for certain things.
Vinegar. Good Lord. All right, let's get off that now. You know what? You can't talk shit about VMI, but I'm going to say this about y'all. You play for a silver corn dog. Just remember that.
We do. It's a chicken bucket with a corn dog.
Your trophy is a chicken bucket with a damn corn dog
sticking out of it. That's exactly right.
Exactly right. All right.
Most uncomfortable son of a bitch you've ever had on your head, too.
If see what Zach said?
One.
No, I didn't see. Put it up. What is the get the hell out of here, Zach McKinnell. Which the funny thing about this is that
Zach McKinnell's ever said.
Zach McKinnell actually had the link to join this. I sent it to him. I know he was recording some other show that I don't know. He's probably talking to Sam or probably talking to Craig or other important people instead of being here, but that's okay, Zach. I get it. It's fine. I know where
What is that show with Craig called? Is it called the FCS Wedge? Is that what it's called?
It's the Edge. The Edge.
Oh, that doesn't sound like show that existed for like 14 years or anything.
Hey man, I was one of the OGs on the FCS Wedge doing.
I know that's a crazy random happenstance right there. And I said that word twice tonight.
Oh man! All right, let's go to the last game. You got the 1-win Nichols Colonels, whose 1 win is against.
What a win it was, right?
Yeah, against the University of the Incarnate Word. Traveling to Nacogdoches, Texas to play the Stephen F. Austin State Lumberjacks. It is homecoming at SFA, so the bonfires will be lit. The crappy country band will be performing. The festivities will be going on, and I have my field level passes for the game. So if you see a guy walking around in purple and white overalls, you know who it is. So this game to me, SFA is coming off a bye. SFA's look good. SFA hasn't looked great. Like to me, they haven't looked great what they could have been. And this is where my criticism will come out of it. You go back to the game against Abilene Christian, you give up a 14-point lead and look like a junior varsity team to I hate to use the Sac State terminology, but you look like an awfully bad team against ACU. And ACU, I mean, Coach Patterson knows how to adjust. He knows how to but do that. But you lose to a team who turns around and gets mollywopped by the University of the Incarnate Word. So there's some things that SFA, I think, needs to fix. I hope the bye week helps and does that. The other thing, too, about this game is I hope this is a great revenge game for Sam Vidlac because Nichols injured him last year in a cheap-ass hit when he was out of bounds. So I hope he throws for 500 yards. I hope I have to add a ton of money to my donation thing. But Jamie, I'm going to start with you. What are your thoughts on SFA versus Nichols?
Yeah, I just feel like SFA's offense is certainly going to be too much for Nichols, and I don't think Nichols is going to have the offense to keep up. I've got a comfortable win for SFA, maybe 14 to 20 points. Sounds good to me. But yeah, I think SFA is going to be one of those teams that has a chance to be on the climb and wind up, somewhere in that 10 to 15 range once it all settles in and everybody's played their schedule and you see who really is who. I think they're a potential top 15 team in the country. We'll see.
So follow-up question that let's say SFA wins out their games. Now, granted, their best games that are left are really against Lamar. Does SFA get a seed between 9 and 16? They're not going to be a top 8, but where do you think they sit in that 9 to 16 range?
Yeah, I think they certainly can be probably 13 to 15, get a home game and see. I mean, heck, maybe they'll be able to match up, get that win first round and match up with like an overrated CAA champion that sneaks in there or something. I could see them having to travel to a Monmouth, so to speak. You can see Monmouth like squeaking into that 7-8. And then, SFA being one of their top seeded home teams. But we'll see.
Yep, I like that.
I think it's possible.
Yep. Kevin, what are your thoughts?
Look, I've been waiting to see that Nichols defense from week 0 again. And was that defense that good, or is the Incarnate Word offense that bad? Every week that Nichols doesn't win, it's Incarnate Word's offense was just that bad, and they can't block anybody. So Nichols has done it before, and like the commenter said, they always seem to give SFA some trouble. That's a rivalry game. It's homecoming, and they're going to want to go in there and ruin everybody's weekend. And they have the ability to do it. It's just, can they put it all together again like they did against Incarnate Word? And I got a feeling they're going to do that again this year. You just have to hope that it's not this week and it's not against you, Rev.
Yeah.
So I got a feeling they'll put it together again because they looked good. And they can be good, but they haven't been that way recently, that's for sure.
Yeah. Honestly, the game, I hope they don't do this week of SFA coasts, and I think they will. Not a blowout, but I think SFA will win comfortably, 14 points somewhere in there. But I think Nichols, the game that people have to watch out for Nichols is when they play for the River Bell in November, because that's one of those games where it doesn't matter if one team is good and one team on paper or record is just complete ass. That game is ugly. That game is brutal. And that would be the game to ruin Southeastern Louisiana's, anything involving the playoffs at that point. So it'll be very, very interesting to see what happens. Of course, Nichols can't score. That is very true. Their offense has struggled this year, but their defense was. I knew he was going to say that not happening, but no, the Nichols' defense had been what had been carrying them. That's what carried them against Incarnate Word. Let's be honest. The pick six, all that, like that's what carried them in that game. So I will say Nichols' offense is awful, but I will not ignore the fact that their defense is not. There's what you have to watch out for, but I'm hoping to Austin's comment that Sam Vidlak throws for 7 touchdowns.
Hey, Jamie.
Yes, sir.
That people are going to be lining up to play in week 0 going forward. You had the lightning storm to end all lightning storms in the FCS kickoff, and Incarnate Word gets beat and doesn't recover. I just think they're going to have a hard time. I mean, they're going to Vegas to play these games with the Dakotas and Montana and they're going to get paid. So, maybe if you get paid, but it's just the extra bye week isn't a huge advantage if you have a lightning storm that wipes out a game and you get whipped in the first week. It's hard to recover from that.
It's a no-lose situation or no-win situation there, it feels like. I mean, I feel for Mercer and UC Davis because I could make a case for either one of those teams had it finished that they would have won the game. I really feel like Mercer was actually going to go down there and win it. They had all the momentum, and I think maybe something like that it just hurt them the next week, and they lost the game, and then made this quarterback switch, and they've been excellent since, and they've reappeared in my rankings this week as I feel like they should, and I do have them ahead of Presbyterian because body of work. I like Mercer, and I think if they played that game 99 more times, Mercer probably wins it 99 times.
Yeah, I agree.
But don't be surprised if PC wins that league if they give somebody some trouble in the first round.
I think
quarterback can spin it.
Yeah, like that's the thing. I think PC will match up very well in a first round game because they're going to get somebody regional, right? They might get somebody out. If SoCon gets an additional team, they'll probably get someone out there. That could be. I'd be interested to see.
Please God, no.
I'd be interested to watch them and Western Carolina go against each other.
Please God, no. Because look, man, I'll just have to keep saying to people, hey, man, Reddit's that way. If that happens.
Hey, so, just remember this about hoes. Sometimes the hoes do be tripping, so they can probably screw up their stuff. So
yes, they do. Yes,
well,
they do.
we're. I mean, this has been a great show. Before we go, Jamie, you're on here all the time. I think folks know where they can find you. But go ahead real quick and just remind folks of the things that you do for FCS Fans Nation.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm on the Sunday show with Matt and Kyler most every week. Missed this past week because I was sitting in there NASCAR racing and heading for my red eye, so I missed that. But mostly there every week at JD Williams on the Twitter machine, also known as X. And you'll see my rankings pretty much every week. Maybe not this week because I might not have finished them. Travel does that to a guy, but I got enough in there to put my poll in for red shirt and the other poll.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm not going to slot shame you for what you did this week. And then last one,
I did some slotting.
I'm sure you did some slotting. But anyways, first of all, before we go to Kevin, I just don't know if you saw that comment, Jamie, but I appreciate that. Here's the thing. I hope Danny shows up to Nashville with some SLU swag because they're the one team whose stuff I don't have.
He's coming.
Yeah. But Kevin, man, listen, I appreciate you coming on the show. You and I have known each other for a long time.
We used to send each other horrible memes.
Yeah, we did.
On a message board.
We really did.
Things that would get us both canceled.
It was a different, there's a little AGS was very unhinged, but Kevin, man, I will say this, we appreciate all you do for the subdivision, the work you're doing with the Alex Eliminate Stand and all that. So tell everybody where they can find you, where they can listen to you, all the good stuff.
Well, look, I want to say just thanks for having me on. It's really nice to be on the Southland Sermon with my good friend Rev. Like you said, we've known each other a long time. and with Jamie too. Jamie's always been very supportive of what we do. And there's two types of Southerner, y'all, and you had both of them tonight. You had Jamie, and then you have me. And Jamie talked about he went to a NASCAR race. His neck is obviously red enough for NASCAR. Mine has never really been. So there's those two types of Southerners right there. So, but look, our show is something that we put a lot of effort and a lot of work into, and we appreciate people who listen, and we do it for y'all. I mean, if you would have told me when I left South Carolina for Montana, this will be my 14th winter out here, that we started on one station in Missoula and we would grow to how we have now, to being on from coast to coast on a lot of sports radio stations, I would have thought that there was something wrong with you. But it's been a blessing. We love what we do. We love who we cover, and we don't know how to do anything else. And I am very envious of people who have long forms like this, because Stone and I are such slaves to a show clock with being on the radio that I got 48 minutes to cover the whole subdivision. And that's difficult to do. But if you haven't listened yet, wherever you get your podcast, there is a podcast version of the show that if you just type in FCS Nation Radio, it'll show up every week. And if you happen to live in a place where your local sports radio station runs FCS Nation, give us a listen. And if they don't, call up that program director and ask them why. Because in some of these places, it's taken people saying, hey, there's a market for this show here. There are people that care about FCS football all over the country. And we're a small tribe, y'all, but our voices can be larger than our numbers. So I'm very thankful to be on. Thanks for having me, Rev. It's good to see you, Jamie. And we'll see both of y'all in Nashville.
Hell
which
yeah.
Will be, which it was time for a change, I think, right? I'm very pleased to be going to new places and seeing the same people in new places. That'll be a lot of fun.
I can't wait to see how many bars on Broadway you offer up SoCo Kamikazes too. And also, I should at some point just have you and Stone come on here, and we can just wax poetic the whole time without a time limit.
Good.
You'll discover
that
Stone isn't as smart as he sounds. So 48 minutes is awesome for him.
I got to say, though, I'm a little disappointed that you didn't say Jamie's neck was as red as the Devil's Dangler, but, that's okay.
No. I got to wait for Easter to be prominent again so that I can use that one. So,
guys, sorry, go ahead.
And, and God bless Kyler, all that smack that he talked when they were good. And, it was receiver you, and now he is being introduced what it's like to be me. And it's awesome.
Oh, I love it. Well, guys, I appreciate you all coming on. And then although, you're here on FCS Fans Nation, so you like and subscribe here, but go find Kevin on social media. Go find, all the folks who cover the FCS, from the big guys like Kevin, Sam, Zach, down to the little guys like myself. Like Kevin said, we could be small in numbers, but our voices can be mighty. So y'all have a great weekend. Enjoy the games. We will talk next week. See ya.